Welcome to Stock Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. One of the things you need to be able to present to investors are reasonable and understandable financial projections. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with Kelvin Taylor from Tailored Analytics. Thank you so much for coming, Kelvin.
I appreciate you inviting me, and thanks for all that you're doing to support entrepreneurs in our region.
Oh, you're very welcome. What kind of pieces go into a financial projection?
The very first thing is, what is your total addressable market, or the total size of the opportunity? What investors are interested in is how scalable the business is. And I think it's intuitive that if the total market opportunity for your concept, your business idea, is $1 million compared to $100 million, that the business with the $100 million market opportunity is going to have a higher valuation, all other things being equal. So one of the first things that investors look for, and you as an entrepreneur should be intimately familiar with, is the size of your market.
Okay, and that's what they usually call TAM, right? Total Available Market.
That is correct. Sometimes called total addressable market, but it's the same thing.
Okay, and then what else do they need?
The other thing they need are, what are the assumptions that you're making? Look, forecast is just a fancy word for guess. But what's really important is, what is the veracity, the credibility of the assumptions that an entrepreneur is using in forecasting what their revenue and profit and cash flow is going to be. As an entrepreneur, in addition to making your forecast, you've got to understand what the projections are for the standard bearer financial schedules that every business owner should know. And again, that starts with a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet statement. But the most important of the three, and the one that is talked about the least, is a cash flow statement. But if you think about a living organism, a human being will die a whole lot faster without air than the human will die without water, will die without food. So cash is like air. Cash is to a business what air is to a human being. You can be profitable, you can be growing your revenue, you can be 100% accurate with your forecast. But if you run out of cash, again, all other things being equal, your business will still be in peril. And so I would say being mindful of how your forecasts, your projections impacts your P&L, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement is one of the other things that entrepreneurs need to be mindful of. Now, there's a whole lot that goes into financial forecasting beyond total addressable market and beyond your financial schedules. An investor is going to want to know, how are you going to be driving revenue? What is your go-to-market strategy? Are you going to need to hire an army of professional salespeople to go knock on doors, one door at a time? Or even in this digital age, how are you identifying who the ideal prospect is for your product or service that you're selling? So you need to be really, really buttoned up in terms of understanding what your go-to-market strategy is.
And just talking about using social media might not be enough. You need to have a sense of how many eyeballs you're going to reach in social media, what the usual click-through rate is, and those kinds of things, as well as have a real good handle on your competition.
100%. And that's typically in an investor pitch deck that is referred to as a product market fit. And product market fit is a subset of what your go-to-market strategy is. So the way that I distinguish between those two is, your go-to-market strategy is how you're going to identify and get access to those eyeballs, be it from social media, word of mouth, or referrals. But your product market fit is your sales pipeline. That is the single biggest indicator that there is demand for the solution that you're providing to the market. Product market fit as a part of your go-to-market strategy is incredibly important to understand.
Sure. And doing that preliminary research, at least asking potential customers, is this a problem you have? How much is it worth you to solve it? And does this sound like a reasonable solution? Getting those early research things in is going to save you a whole lot of time and effort.
I couldn't have said it any better, Mary. You're 100% correct. And there's a cautionary tale here, and that is if your market research consists largely of friends and family or those individuals, entities that you have an existing relationship with, everyone wants to be kind. They want you to be successful. They will give you encouraging words. But your market research really should be as unbiased from unbiased sources as possible.
Sometimes you just have to get brave and go ask a potential customer. Oh, by the way, is this a problem you're having? Do you think this solution might work? And just be prepared to have somebody say, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right. You've got to have very thick skin to be a successful entrepreneur. So not only do you have to have the courage to ask, as you pointed out, Mary, you have to have the courage to ask for the sale at a market rate for that sale.
Absolutely. And that market rate isn't just the cost of your materials plus a percentage. It's the cost of your time plus the materials plus a percentage.
I think about pricing in two dimensions, if you will. There's price-led costing and cost plus pricing. Now, out of the two approaches, price-led costing and cost plus pricing, I think price-led costing is superior to cost plus pricing. But you cannot skip the step of doing the market research to inform what that market price should be. Cost plus pricing, on the other hand, says, look, this is my cost basis. It costs me $50 to produce, package, and to bring to market my widget. I decide that I want a 25% markup or 30% markup, whatever that margin or markup is. So I have my costs. This is the profit that I want to make, and I'm going to then set my price accordingly. Well, if my price structure, my cost structure is twice as expensive as my competitor's cost structure, and I want to have the same margin as my competitor, once again, you can see how we can get sideways with the market in terms of using an inflated cost basis to then inflate my price, right?
Right. And those kinds of things only work if you have something intangible there that's going to cause people to be willing to spend extra money. So that's like the difference between PCs and Macs.
That is correct. That is
People
correct.
pay the extra for that design. And you got to be
Or
really clever about those things. And it's a huge risk.
yeah. And so what you're speaking to there is brand value, right?
Brand value. Well, yeah, this has been fabulous. We're having a great discussion, but time is about up. So thank you so much, Kelvin Taylor. We'll put contact information, links in the comments so people can find out more. Thanks again. And I'm Mary Scott with Business
Okay.
Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stuck. Time to improv.